There was a recent event where Samsung employees unknowingly leaked confidential chip designs because they were using ChatGPT, for some work and uploaded their chip design.
You got to be really careful. Like AI is the one space where you don't really know what's going to happen. Like the security and privacy is a huge concern in that area.
Are we really paying to be spied on? What are the biggest privacy disasters which you see apart from the Samsung one?
OpenAI and all these other companies, when you use their chat information, even especially if you're a consumer that don't pay for it or you do pay for the consumer version.
During the Facebook era, we used to say that if you're using something for free, then you're the product. But in this case, it might be that we're actually not using it for free, but even then we're the product. There's like this database which got released and people can, buy it off the darknet. I think this is more deeper than that. You built Wagoo.ai as a completely offline AI assistant. You're actually competing against companies which have billions in funding and who are giving away AI for all like either very cheap. I started my first startup back in 2012 when I was in school, when I started building WordPress websites for businesses around my university. So Mikul, welcome to ChaiNet. Let's start directly with a question. Are we really paying to be spied on?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. And yeah, I got Mikul. Really happy to be here and talk about basically what the future of AI kind of looks like and all this privacy. So yeah, let's get straight into the question. We're indirectly actually are getting paid we're paying to get spied on. If you think about it, OpenAI and all these other companies, when you use their chat information, even especially if you're a consumer that don't pay for it or you do pay for the consumer version, everything you send is used to get like train their information. Like one notable example would be like there's a company that I was working with confidential information. They asked a question about it, and obviously the ChatGPT did not know, so it said it didn't know. And then literally a couple months later, they asked a similar question, and ChatGPT knew about it, and no one else would know about it because it's completely internalized, right? All this data is being like stored, and like you can basically just have it access. Like think about it, like you ask ChatGPT a question, it knows what you are, like who you are, everything you do. Its memory is pretty great, but where's the memory stored? On their servers, public, almost like indirectly public. There was like a issue where ChatGPT, all chats were actually indexed by Google as something you can like search and find, right? So you got to be really careful. Like AI is the one space where you don't really know what's going to happen. Like the security and privacy is a huge concern in that area.
Right. No, that's true. I think during the Facebook era, we used to say that if you're using something for free, then you're the product. But in this case, it might be that we're actually not using it for free, but even then we're the product, right? But walk us through an example. What happens? Let's say I open up ChatGPT and paste my financial data, right, bank statements, and tell it to give me an analysis, or let's say some legal document. Walk me through what happens to that information in the next 60 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, first thing is like, yeah, I guess upload ChatGPT, like their servers, and then ChatGPT will look at it, give you the answer. Okay, cool. You saw all the information, you got the answer that you wanted, you're happy. But now that that your bank information, probably your social security number, is now stored on their servers, possibly going to be used to be trained in, like within the next couple month or so on that data, and there's a pretty decent chance that that social security number that you just put like uploaded to that information is now used to train, and now is in that system billions of parameters, and now it could be like a random number generated. Let's say generate me random social security number. It could actually be a real one. It could even be yours.
Right. No, that's true. It's ultimately it's getting stored on the servers, right? And there was a recent event where Samsung employees unknowingly leaked confidential chip designs because they were using ChatGPT, for some work and uploaded their chip designs. And actually, Samsung, I think, ended up banning all these generic AI tools, right? But most companies don't even know that something like that is happening. What are the biggest privacy disasters which you see apart from the Samsung one that either never made the headlines or did not get enough hype?
Yeah, I think it's just like Samsung. Obviously, the big companies have it like huge, but there's always a lot of things like here and there. Obviously, the early example that I mentioned with just the confidential information. There's a lot of other like companies, even like McKinsey, they completely banned AI. You can only use intern tools, which kind of suck. I know other companies that even tech companies that have access to AI just like completely banned it because they're just worried. So those they're preemptive. So obviously, you don't hear anything about those. But a lot of these like financial companies, these smaller ones, some of them are cautious about it, but others are not that so cautious, and they're like, okay, they'll use it. You never know. No, so most of the times these won't even be on the news. Like most like companies will be precautious, but you never know. You're not like it could just. happened to you already, and you just never know it. It could have happened to me already. I would not have known it. Like you never know. Yeah, it's like hard to tell, but it will make the news. Like what I do will make the news. But even if a big company does it, obviously they caught it, it made the news. But what about all those companies that do it, send information, and also just don't get it? Like they just don't see the information. They never know that it got leaked.
Right. Even it's not like the data breach, right, that used to happen in the earlier days where there's or there's like this database which got released and people can buy it off the dark net. I think this is more deeper than that because it's not these won't be data breaches, but these would be just AI giving out your information because somewhere someday it was fed into. But don't these AI chatbots have like separate memories for each other, and like within like for each other, I mean for every user, a separate memory segment, and so that memories don't get intertwined.
Yeah, they'd obviously like have like my memory would be completely different from what your memory would be. Like my responses actually be slightly different. Like sometimes they'll get biased responses, which is something
Right.
that even temporary chat can't fix. It's like a trade-off. So yes, of course we'll have different information. That obviously is we've been storing information on the cloud for like years now and so much privacy, so much security. So that's not usually never the problem. Like, yeah, your memory is safe to me, my memory is safe to me, like whatever, it's all privacy and safe. It's usually those messages that you send and that kind of information becomes a problem. So obviously most like 99% of all like the security concerns that we've had like from like 20 years of just the past of security, that's all been solved. Like that's not the issue. It's just very specific to the AI, not the platform, not the infrastructure. Like how does the AI handle information?
Mm,
Memory is obviously okay because that's encrypted and stored completely separately.
right. True. Now we have, if we talk about Web 2 or we talk about pre AI tools, right? We have certifications like, your HIPAA for healthcare, basic attorney client privilege, for legal, a lot of things for medical. But suddenly, businesses have been feeding a lot of confidential information to OpenAI, right? Or Anthropic. Like, let's not just talk about OpenAI. Generally, any AI server. How has that become so normal, right? How did we normalize it?
Yeah, I think it's just like the rapid growth. Like it's happened so fast. It's like you can't even like stop it. It's almost like okay, it's gonna get better and better. Things are just gonna completely change. Obviously, with all this compliance, this companies are starting to worry about compliance. And also, there's like SOC 2. Like obviously, you mentioned the HIPAA compliance. Those things are obviously being factored in. So like if you get the enterprise version, then they say at least they say that your information not being used to train all that. So all those compliance measures only protect like the data and how it's stored and how it's encrypted on the server side, the client side. It's a very like it's just something that obviously it's been done, so we know that's going to be defined. But we're trusting the word of OpenAI to be like, hey, all this information that I have sent, I am currently on the enterprise version. I have HIPAA compliance. I have SOC 2 compliance. Your data is not supposed to use to be trained on anything. Okay, so we just trust it, which it's always a thing of like when new technology comes, people get on and just use it. Concerns fall back a little bit. Like I'm kind of like privy to this as well. Concerns less of an issue when things are so cool, but it needs to come back. It needs to slowly become there. And we're getting close, but it's not fully there. Like data is still data, and it could get trained on. So
That's true. That's true. And it's still not a trustless system, right? You still need to trust either the company hosting your model or the company, building an agent around it. And you're right. Maybe OpenAI's or Anthropics of the world are handling data in the best possible way. But what about the agents which are being built on top of them, right? We don't know. They're like small app developers, indie developers. We don't know what they're doing with the data they're getting from users. Yeah. Okay. So you built Wagoo.ai as a completely offline AI assistant. Um, I think a lot of our listeners would probably think offline AI sounds kind of impossible, at least right now. How do you get AI capabilities without sending any data to the cloud?
yeah, I think that's a good question, and honestly, it's very like valid. It's a very valid concern. Like AI takes so many huge data servers to train, and needs like multiple GPUs just to answer your questions. Like, how is this even possible? And the reason it's possible now is that we're able to take these huge models, condense all that information like into like a small model, and then what we call quantization. And you can quantize like these models. There's obviously a lot of open source models. OpenAI released actually their first open source models. A bunch of other companies have been creating open source models, so we just use those kind of models and quantize them down to be very small and to work on your computer. And that reason why it doesn't like make it to the cloud is like, if you were to run this AI on your computer, you can turn off your internet. You can be in like a middle of nowhere on an airplane and still ask the question and get a natural language response, right? That is the proof that it's completely offline. And the way you do it is obviously to make these models smaller, and they'll work on your device, so you can just, whatever computer you're on, you download it and it runs on your computer using your own memory, your own performance. Nothing else gets impacted. Nothing leaves your computer that way. And we're able to hit pretty close to GPT 4.0 performance, even on like a model that's like that's like 2 GB compared to like, let's say a 4 or 5 GB model, or sorry, like
Right.
for like a terabyte model or something of like something else. Like it's a lot smaller, and it's still able to release that full level of performance because you're taking all of that knowledge base and condensing it down into that smaller space.
True, true, true. That's for sure. Tricky, but yeah, but I'm happy that there are solutions out there. But if let's say offline AI is possible, um, what's the catch? Why isn't everyone doing it, right?
I think that, yeah, the main issue is like the fact like it's a performance. Obviously, I say it's like similar to GPT-4 level performance, but it is not the same as GPT 4.0. It is not going to hit that same level of like accuracy and whatever, like data handling. It can respond really well, answer questions for me, analyze things, just not that same level. So the biggest thing is always performance. On it just You just can't get the full level performance on a smaller model.
Walk us through, let's say, a real scenario, right? Let's say I'm a lawyer and I'm working on a confidential case. With traditional AI, let's say if I use ChatGPT, I'm handling my client's case information to OpenAI or Microsoft or Claude. With how does that work with?
Mhm. Yeah, it's like you basically have to just keep whatever you do like completely like into like the offline system, right? You cannot, like, whatever you do, just like you just send it to like a local system, and then whatever you do, all that information just stays locally, because it never makes a call to the online system. It all stays completely local, and it just basically now is just like saves the privacy. It's like nothing leaves your computer, so then nothing leaves the computer, you know for sure it's safe, because then how else is someone else supposed to like access the information? So it just, we're able to analyze data and information and text, whatever it may be, like the case information, just completely on your device, because the model thinks it does everything locally without ever leaving it. It's your use case, like the way you use it does not change. It's like sending a message to the cloud, but then instead you're sending it locally, and sometimes after the first message it's actually faster because there's no cloud dependency. It just runs local. So for you, nothing like changes. Like maybe the response will be slightly different, but nothing changes. On the back end, obviously, is where the magic happens. No cloud means like full security and high, like still the same performance.
Right, right. But do you think there would be differences in the efficiency or the correctness?
There will be, like, depends on the kind of workloads, right? I think for, if you're querying document information, like, you're not going to see that much of a difference. You're asking basic questions, you're not going to see much of a difference. But for, obviously, for complex tasks, like if you're trying to do like a lot of coding, you will definitely notice the difference.
Let's talk a bit about the business, right? You're actually competing against companies which have billions in funding and who are giving away AI for all, like, either very cheap. I don't know if you've read the news, but OpenAI actually also launched a new plan, which apparently is only there for India, and it costs them $5 a month, right? How do you compete with something like this when when your business model is based on privacy, but then people end up paying more, right?
Yeah, that's, I think it's just, you kind of have to, you're paying for like the access of like the ability to run things privately and locally, and without the caveats that running local models, like someone as like a no, that's not a tech savvy person, is extremely difficult. Like there's a lot of technical things you kind of need to know to set them up. When set up, you get a huge like benefit, but most people don't have the time and expertise to do it. And the way we do it is we've done months of research on figuring out what the best model is, performance, and analyzing to get to like that state of like, here's a good model that we think you should be using completely offline. Here we go, just use it. All you gotta do is click download, and there we go. You just use it, nothing changes. We do all of the work ahead of time. That's kind of like the main benefit. And obviously, competing with these companies are going to be hard. That's why we're not going to just stick with just being able to do local models. We're going to be able to do.
Now, as a founder, right, do you think a founder should care about AI privacy at this stage? If someone is building a startup and needs to move fast, or is it just would you call AI privacy right now a paranoia for founders?
I would say that there's still ways, like obviously you want to move fast and just anything prototype wise, you want to get a prototype. But when
Hmm.
you're launching to the public, that's when you kind of have to care about this privacy. So the very early stages, like yeah, you can let it go. Like obviously when I built the very early version of it, I didn't really have privacy. But then when before I launched to the public, that's when I really cared a lot and make sure it was secure and private. So like I would say like for both founders, so yes, you kind of do have to care about it. Is I think about like the architecture, right? If you're thinking about how to build the product or build a company, you still like privacy and security is going to be still a concern no matter what, and you kind of have to factor that in as a later step, but it has to be a step in your plan. A lot of like it's now very easy to code and build products and it's still relatively easy to care about privacy and security. There's other companies that focus on getting compliance, getting that security level that you would need, or building the local model, and it's just like it's just available now, so it's something that you can be able to work towards before making public, and you should like care about it.
For startups, it's like a hockey stick, right? So towards initially there's nothing, and then suddenly when they have users, they have product market fit, and then suddenly everything blows up. And especially I think we're seeing that more and more in the AI space. So if they don't think about privacy from day one, it can be a problem. And what about enterprises? There's this EU AI Act that that says that they can fine companies almost 35 million euros, right, for an AI failure or a data privacy breach for AI. So, do you think for them privacy first AI is the way to go, and do you think that it'll eventually become mandatory?
Yeah, I would say so. It's eventually going to become mandatory. It's like how slowly, like even with the iPhones and all that kind of stuff, like Apple cares a lot, and they have all these like data. Like EU also had like data privacy concerns and things like that, right? So there, it's definitely like working towards that, and it will definitely be a requirement. For companies, obviously they do just release AI, and but they do, and like for most of them, I'll give them credit. Like they do figure it out. They do get all the compliance. They at least on paper, on our level, what we can see, they are doing what they should be doing to make sure they mandate like keep the privacy even with the concerns in mind. There's only a very few like very like high like specific lawyers or financial people that or like healthcare that care about privacy to like the next level where offline comes even way more important than just privacy concerns trusted. But overall, like as of now, there's some concerns, but I think it will be a mandatory, especially if the EU is moving this way, other countries will follow.
Right, right. I think that's something which is very important, and it's going to come soon. Let's talk a bit about your journey. You're 20 years old. You're studying at Columbia, and you're building a company. Most people struggle with either one of those things. How do you manage both? Your academics and being a startup CEO.
Yeah, I think it's like a tricky one, and I was people might not like what I'm gonna say, but it actually just comes down to what do you care about more. I think at the very first, obviously cared a lot about academics. I grinded through like to get all A's, things like that for the first couple of years, which it worked out, right? At the same time, I had the entrepreneurial mindset. I was talking to people, trying to see what product sticks. I built a few things with my co-founder in the past, obviously with the academics first, but then it's like a slight priority shift now. Like towards like the last semester, it was okay. My academics went down a little bit. Obviously, I'm still like still one of the like top students there. Like okay, great. But then like you can't perfectly manage both, and hence why people drop out, people take gaps. So I will say that you can't. It's like not. It is pretty difficult to manage both. It's what do you care about, and my priority shifted, and I'm in a way like glad that it did. I'm like much like happier doing what I'm doing now than academics, but it is still very much doable in both. Like obviously as of now, like I'm going back to school in a week or so. We'll see if I actually stay in school. Things are growing much faster than we expected. So stay tuned on for the journey. Like you might see me like not in school in a few weeks from now. But as of now, we're going back. Still care about academics. Like it's just a time management. Like how can you spend as much enough time to learn what you need to learn in school, but then spend the rest in like your startup and your company, and also still have fun, right? It's like a balance. It's still it just comes out to like time management and like just balance, and it's something that you will kind of build over time. You figure it over time. Like I'm sure like as you're older, you kind of like figure it out, but it falls in place, and I think it's very much doable. At the end of the day, your priorities will shift, and they should. But as of now, it's very just time management, waking up, doing school, and then working on the company, and then just doing that like 24/7, spending as many hours as you need.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, time management skills, I'm sure, go a long way in this, right? So you've had multiple failed startups, right? I think that was me too. I started my first startup back in 2000. 12 when I was in school, when I started, building WordPress websites for people, for businesses around my university. But you've had multiple failed startups. You built a dream journal app, and a distracted driving detection platform. What do you think about failures? Have they taught you something uh, which has now reflected your current business model, or idea, or vision?
Yeah, I think it's comes down to like a lot of like little things of just the how you move forward, how you build, like how you like think about products. It's not necessarily like the ideas themselves, but it's also the mindset that you build over time of like experimenting and building new products and things like that. You kind of learn a lot, and through, especially not just from a product sense, but from a business perspective as well. And it just like obviously there's like a lot of things like they failed because of various reasons. Like we were not ready. It's not something we cared about, passionate enough about. People were not ready. So you kind of learn these little things, then you start improving them on as you go forward. And it's product level, business level, like personal level. It's like a whole range of things. Like if we haven't done those things, we don't know where we'd be right now. And obviously, even now we're iterating really fast and changing really fast. But the core model stays the same about privacy and security. In the past, the core model was obviously different things. Like Dream Journal was understanding yourself. So the core stuff should still stay the same. It's just how you think about everything else.
There are a lot of learnings, and I think success is the sum of all your failures, right? That's very popular quote. I'm not sure who said it, not me, but I read it somewhere. But if you have one piece of advice to founders who are using AI tools right now, but they've not thought about privacy, if they're listening right now, what should they do tomorrow morning? Just one thing.
Just one thing I would it sounds counterproductive, but go to ChatGPT and ask it about privacy because as much as you might those questions might be used to be trained on, information that it knows is going to be factual about. So that's how I learned about it. So have a nice conversation with ChatGPT and understand privacy. It's going to pull in real sources and it's going to just answer everything you need to know. And yes, it answers the question that I'll ask, like just talk to AI and then like ask it counterproductive as it sounds, it's going to tell you whatever you need to know. Like ask it like, what does privacy mean? How do I care about privacy? What are different metrics I can use? What are products that are privacy centric and what it's in their like company like documentation that privacy is important? What are ways I could like implement like the compliance, like using Vanta or whatever it may be? Just ask it all the questions, the burning question of privacy you have. The fact that you're even doing that is obviously a great step and towards and that's the direction we want to go. So just literally just ask AI what you should do about privacy, what like how I can care about it. Ask it not just as a company perspective. Like if you're building an AI tool, great. Most of the times, I'm gonna be honest, you probably privacy won't matter as much. But when it does, how do I get to that privacy level? What kind of enterprises do I have to work with versus not work with? If I'm using AI on my own, what products are like privacy focused versus not? And just learn about as much as you can, and you can just get the information that you would be able to use.
Fair enough. That also answers Rahul's question. That's why uh, showed it that Rahul was asking how should I learn to understand privacy in AI, and yeah, I think as you said, Mikul, that just ask AI, right? That's a good way to learn about it. Um, so I have one question which I was when we were uh, doing our research, we see that you're also doing something in voice. What do you think about voice in AI? Do you think that's the future of AI, or do you think that's just like like a fad which will go away? What do you think voice in AI, and where do you think it's headed?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it also ties a little bit into privacy. But voice, it's much. We're having a conversation here. We're not typing, right? It's like right now, chatbots are locked into like the little window. You have to type to it. We saw this a little bit with our Wagoo desktop assistant, where it follows you around and knows what you are seeing and it responds accordingly. So we're building towards that. But voice is much easier. I'm able to talk and get things done. And right now there's no operating system, if you will, for AI. There's no like way of interacting. It's all chatbots and that's not very intuitive. It can run AI agents in the background, okay, but you don't even know what's happening. How do we get to that state of future like things? Like I want like a Jarvis like assistant that I can just talk to and I get tells me everything I need to know. It can act for me, things like that, like book my Uber. But like smart homes and smart assistants are not there yet. And voice is gonna be the future because it's just so easy to talk and get things done rather than typing at a screen or like clicking buttons to like orchestrate different things, like sending an email. I think that's why I think the future is headed. There is no operating system for AI that connects all your tools together. Obviously, privacy is really important because you want to make sure that everything you're connecting together is private and secure and done in a way that your data is not being sold or stolen. But that is still, I would say, like the way the future is. We're not there just yet. We're building to, like, as a company, we're building towards that voice first goal with privacy in mind. Like 24/7 personal assistant is our name, right? So we're building a desktop assistant. We're going to build the next set of voice agents, but with privacy and security in mind, with compliance in mind, that these highest level professionals that care about privacy can still use and get the most out of AI just by talking to it. And they can actually be ahead of the curve because now they're using voice and AI, talking just to get tasks, like sending emails, sending 100 emails, scheduling meetings, doing whatever, getting information for your upcoming meeting really, really quickly than anyone else could. And that's, I think, going to be huge, and it's going to be in the future. I would say quite soon, actually. So that's where I think future, like, AI is headed. With the operating system of AI is going to be voice, and it's also going to be privacy first. So stay tuned.
Right. No, I think that's exciting. And for all our listeners, that's as Mikkel is saying, follow his journey. I think I will for sure. I'll look forward to the next few weeks. And as you said, right, voice is the natural interface is changing, right now, as we're used to the mouse and the keyboard and chatting and all of that. I think that's gonna go, and the next generation will probably not. I think we were the only few generations, starting from probably Gen Y, X, and then Z, that we use the keyboard so much. And I think we're not going to use the keyboard anymore. It'll just be voice. But yeah, thank you so much, Mikul. Um is there anything else which you want to add? You want to let our listeners know, or you know, give them some valuable advice before we
Yeah,
end?
I would say, yeah, again, like, thank you for having me. It's been great to, like, talk about the for AI and the future of AI, and also like voice and privacy. But I would say, just like, no matter like what kind of person you are, just keep doing what you're doing. Make sure you care about like privacy and security, and also like it sounds kind of random and not connected, but because AI, and you don't want to continuously talking to AI, you want to talk to your friends and make sure you build those connections, those like meaningful connections, and do what you do, like get at it and just like keep doing whatever. Just make sure you stay focused, stay dedicated, keep those things that you value the most in mind, of like what you're doing, like what is the core that is going to stay no matter what. So I would just keep doing that, and it's going to be great. We would love to like connect with you guys and see what you guys are doing as well. It's going to be a great journey for all of us.
Amazing. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing next 5 years. For everyone else, that was Mikul showing us that the future of AI doesn't have to involve trading our privacy for productivity if we do things right. And if you think about privacy from day one, we can actually have a future which is not a surveillance state, or at least somewhere in the middle. And you can find him building the anti-surveillance AI revolution while finishing his degree, or not finishing his degree, in Colombia. And yeah, proof that most important problems don't wait for convenient timing. Thank you so much, Mikkel. It was wonderful.